2019 and to not have heard of the term loss aversion. But for the very few people who might be in that condition, loss aversion is the tendency to feel losses with twice the magnitude of equal gains, right? So the negative emotion of a $5 loss is twice as big as the positive emotion of a $5 gain. That's what loss aversion is all about. We've heard about this, but how do we apply this? Obviously, people are more sensitive to the losses in their portfolios. Of course, they react more emotionally. But where else do we see loss aversion, and how can we use this in our practice to make better decisions for clients? Well, we can combine loss aversion with this concept known as framing. So it's best explained with an example. So we all know the benefits of disability insurance, right? Being able to protect someone's single biggest asset for most people, their ability to earn an income for the rest of their life that's worth millions of, as of yet, unrealized, millions of dollars. That's a very worthwhile thing. And so when you explain that to a client, you're saying, yeah, look, being able to protect that asset is worthwhile, and here are the features and benefits. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds great. This totally makes sense. And then you show them the cost. Yeah, it's $1,000 per year. They're like, oh, this doesn't make any sense anymore. All right? So we know that because they're focused on the loss in cash flow. That's what they focus on. They're going to lose that immediately for a benefit that they don't know if they're actually ever going to realize. So they focus on that $1,000 loss in cash flow. But if you reframe this question without changing any of the information, you can actually elicit a different response. And here's how you should position this. Give them an option. Would you rather earn $50,000 per year when healthy but zero if disabled? Or would you rather earn $49,000 per year when healthy but $30,000 per year tax-free when disabled? Everyone is going to naturally gravitate towards option B, which is the exact same thing as making $50,000 less the cost of a $1,000 per year disability insurance policy. So you have not changed any of the information, but by reframing it, their loss aversion kicks in. And in scenario A, they're focusing on zero money if disabled. That is a lot more painful. They want to avoid that. So it's much more appealing to look at it through the lens of option B, which is the exact same thing as it always has been. The cost of the policy is just $1,000. So if you use this technique, I guarantee your rate of close for insurance sales will go up. Researchers did this really cool experiment where they looked at professional goalkeepers in the Premier League. And what they found was during penalty kick situations, at the end of a game when they've got a tie game, they just line up and start taking shots at the goalie, one team after the other. What they found was 94% of the time, under a penalty kick situation, these goalies will dive to the left or the right. They basically dive all the time. But when you analyze the shot trajectory of the kicks, what they found was, had these guys simply stayed in the middle of the net and not moved at all, they would have stopped way more shots. But here's the ironic thing. If you tell all the goalkeepers, hey, listen, you guys realize that if you just stayed in the middle and did nothing, you'd stop more shots, win more games, and make more money? They keep diving to the left or the right. Why? Because they don't want to be seen as being paid all this money and doing nothing. Right? It's also because of this action bias. We have a tendency to want to do something when faced with some kind of pressure. And we see this with clients. Whenever the markets are going down, the action bias kicks in. Should we do something? And sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing. Is just stick to the plan. But this action bias kicks in, both for investors and advisors, by the way, because you also feel the pressure. Oh, should we? Because they're paying you, and you think, well, maybe I need to be seen to be doing something. No, that is not true. You need to have that conviction that sticking to the plan is the best course of action. You don't keep changing your portfolio strategy. It's like that old adage, your portfolio strategy and your investment returns. It's like a bar of soap. The more you touch it, the smaller it gets. It's so true. So, knowing this, what can we do about this? And what I'm about to share with you is going to sound really corny. But I'm going to tell you, if I was back to being a financial advisor again today, I 100% would do this for every single client. And here's what it is. And it is going to look super corny, but I guarantee you it will work. Every time you meet with a new client or an existing client, and you haven't done this before, you present them with this very cheesy-looking piece of paper that has two options. And you ask your client, or prospective new client, what type of investor would you like to be? Would you like to buy low and sell high, or would you like to buy high and sell low? And they're going to look at you like you have two heads and say, this is the stupidest thing ever. Is this some kind of joke? And you would just say, just humor me. Check the box that represents the type of investor. And they might think it's some kind of trick, and they're like, it's buy low, sell high. Yes, it is indeed. Buy low, sell. Check that off and sign the piece of paper. And then you would tell them, listen, the reason that we're doing this is that one day the markets are going to go down. And you're going to call me wanting to bail on the strategy that we have put together. I'm going to tell you that is the single biggest mistake that investors make. And so invariably what will happen is the markets go down, clients panic, they call up, and maybe the first time, the second time, you walk them off the edge. And you say, no, just stick to the plan, stick to the plan. But you know it gets harder the deeper the market goes. So maybe the third time they call you up and say, no, you know what, I know what we're supposed to do, but I just can't take it anymore. We need to bail on this investment strategy. And you say, no problem. I'm just going to send you this piece of paper. I'd like you to cross off the line that says buy low, sell high. Take off the box that says buy high, sell low. Sign it, send it back to me, and I'd be happy to process your order. And I guarantee you, this will stop enough people from making some of the single biggest mistakes that they make when it comes to investment returns. One of the reasons that it is so hard to save for retirement is that we are present biased, which means we tend to weight the significance of things that happen today as much more important than things in the future. That's part of our hard wiring. And to give you an example of this, if I had a number of assistants walk into the room right now with giant silver platters, and on these platters were freshly baked cinnamon rolls, and they're so fresh that they're still warm, you can smell the freshly baked dough, there's hints of cinnamon in the air, the glaze is still melting down the sides of these cinnamon rolls, your mouths are starting to water. And then I give you a question, a choice. You can have one free cinnamon roll right now, but if you wait 1 week from now, you can have 2 cinnamon rolls. What do you think most people would choose? Of course they take one right now, right? But what if we change the question? What if we said, listen, you can have one free cinnamon roll 1 year from now, but if you wait 1 year and 1 week, you can have 2. Now they all pick 2. But what was the difference in the actual question? The question was, do you want a cinnamon roll at time X or 2 cinnamon rolls at time X plus 1 week? But because when it happened, had a huge impact on the decision that we make. That's what's called hyperbolic discounting. We weight the significance of things that happen right now as way, way more important than things that will happen way off into the future, right? And the relationship is hyperbolic. So how do we use this to our advantage? Well, Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in economics for his contributions to behavioral economics, along with a research partner by the name of Shlomo Benartzi, they tested out this hypothesis that took into account hyperbolic discounting. And here's how it worked. They went to a bunch of 401k plan sponsors, like group RSP sponsors in the States, and they said, when someone signs up for their group RSP or 401k, and you ask them how much they want to save towards their work retirement plan, we want you to add one simple box on that form. And on that box, we want you to ask people, how much do they want to pre-commit out of their future raises gets added to this savings plan? So not ask them how much they want to save right now, ask them how much they want to save out of any future raises that come in the future. And that one small change yielded an increase in those 401k balances of about $27 billion over the span of 10 years. So what this means for you is anytime you sit down with a client, you should be asking them about their next raise and pre-committing what you're going to do with that money. Right? If you ask them, hey, do you want to put another $100 a month to your retirement savings right now? They're just thinking, well, what am I going to squeeze out of my current expenses in order to come up with that $100? They don't like that. But if they're going to get a $200 per month raise in the future, you'd say, hey, do you want to commit half of that raise towards retirement savings? Not only do they not have a loss in cash flow because they get $100 more in their pocket to spend because they've committed half of the raise, they're also much more likely to make a rational decision about those future income raises when they get them. So if you can get them to commit to making those decisions before they actually get their raises, they are much more likely to use that money productively. So document that, have them sign that to that effect, and it will change the way that your clients make decisions. Get them to avoid the hyperbolic discounting. Now, the last bias I want to talk to you about is called herding. So if any of you remember Psychology 101, you probably remember the Solomon-Asch conformity paradigm. For those of you who don't, here's how it works. Essentially, researchers, they lined up subjects, 10 subjects, side by side, in a bunch of chairs on a stage maybe like this, and they put them in front of a screen like that, and they all asked them, one by one, the exact same question without changing the graphic. And the question was, which of these lines, A, B, or C, is the same length as X? And the answer to everyone in this room is clear as day, and the answer is B. Yes, it's not a trick question. The answer is, in fact, B. But here's the genius of the experimental design. Subjects 1 through 9 were all actors, and they were all told to say A, the wrong answer. The only person being tested was subject number 10. So imagine, you're subject number 10, you've got 9 people beside you sitting in chairs, and the researchers start with subject number 1. Subject number 1, which of these lines, A, B, or C, is the same length as X? This person's maybe a bit of an overactor, or overselling, like humming and hawing, like, man, I don't know, that's pretty close. I think it's A. And you're thinking, that guy's just weird. Subject number 2, which of these lines, A, B, or C, is the same length as X? And maybe they're a Shakespearean trained actor, so they play it a little bit more coolly, and they say, oh, it's clearly A. Now you're thinking, what the heck is going on? Is it an optical illusion? Is it the angle they are from the screen? This doesn't make any sense. Subjects 3 through 9, all actors. Which of these lines, A, B, or C, is the same length as X? They all say A, the wrong answer. Subject number 10, the only person actually being tested. Which of these lines, A, B, or C, is the same length as X? 35% of the time they will say A, the wrong answer. That is how powerful the herding bias is. The keeping up with the Joneses phenomenon, and it's getting worse because of social media. People post their highlight reels, right? You compete with what you can see. You don't see the other side of the balance sheet, which is all the debt that they're getting into, right? So this herding bias is responsible for the behavioral drag in returns that we often hear about. That's the difference between what's available in the market versus what investors actually get, the behavioral drag. There was an article published, just celebrated its 10-year anniversary,